Well, Ken Livingstone joins us now from North London, and with me in the studio are Labour's Shadow Defence Minister, Kevan Jones, and the former Chief of Defence Staff, Lord Richards. Kevan Jones, we'll deal with Labour and Syria in a minute, but let's just sort out this row first. Do you accept Mr Livingstone's apology?
Well, the fact of the matter is we made great strides in this country about tackling stigma, and I've been part of that. Jeremy Corbyn, fair to himself, has worked very hard on this agenda. And I think it's sad that in this day and age that somehow has passed Ken Livingstone by, that he can actually use such inflammatory language, which is not just an insult to me, and I've got broad shoulders. But what I feel sorry for are the millions of people out there who are struggling with mental illness, who will just see his comments as both backward-looking and also offensive.
Do you agree with your colleague, the Shadow Mental Health Minister, who says that this should be treated as seriously as sexism or racism? Well,
the fact of the matter is that, as I say, we've worked very hard, both as a Labour Party and also charities. And Jeremy's been at the forefront of that. I've worked very closely with him on mental health issues. And I think for Ken Livingstone to use this language and not apologise until he's forced to by Jeremy Corbyn, I think just, puts back that agenda. And anything that does that is not helpful.
Ken Livingstone, you had two opportunities to apologise, and you were forced to do so, weren't you?
No, Jeremy phoned and said, actually, he's quite a decent guy, and reminded me that Jeremy's strategy is that we don't do all the offensive backstabbing and rows that we've had in the past, so I just got on board with that. If I've upset anyone, I'm really sorry. But this row isn't something I started. It's because I was attacked as not fit for this job. And you could just have picked up the phone and asked me, and I'd have reminded you for 5 years, as leader of the GLC, we were responsible for civil defence in London. And for the 4 years after 9/11, we worked both with the military and the police to prepare for the attack on London. The idea I have no involvement or understanding of the military actions and their consequences is really quite offensive.
Well, let me put that to Kevan Jones. You started it, he's saying.
Well, the fact of the matter is that neither myself or Maria Eagle even knew that Mr Livingstone had been appointed this morning. The fact of the matter is, as well, that doesn't excuse the offensive language he used in reply, which has done a huge damage to, I think, the debate that we have in the UK about mental health and the good work that both Labour Party, Jeremy, myself and the charity sector have done in trying to address stigma. And I'm sorry, the idea that he came to apologise, no, he didn't. As I spoke to Jeremy at lunchtime, he rang him, and it was only after he rang him that he actually apologised.
Can you work together on Labour's defence policy now?
Well, the fact of the matter is I'm not sure what Mr Livingstone's role is, because he talks about the role he played as mayor, which is fine. But I would have thought if he had that, an interaction with charities in his own constituency, for example, in London, he would have actually recognised that using the language he did about mental health was totally inappropriate in this day and age.
So does he have to go, Ken Livingstone?
Well, I've got to say, in terms of some of the languages used, it's caused huge offence to people, not just in the Labour Party, in the charity sector and others. And I think there's no place for that type of language in this modern era.
So does he have to quit this new defence role?
Well, I'm not sure what his role is, but the fact of the matter is,
co-chair of the Labour Party Defence
It was news to both myself and Maria this morning when he announced it on Twitter last night.
Mr Livingstone.
I mean, Jeremy, if I can actually say to you, you provoked this row, you questioned my ability to do this job. Why didn't you just pick up the phone and ask me what I knew and understood about it? I've been debating military and defence issues for 45 years in both our party and in the media.
Well, what I say, why announce something on Twitter last night, which you did, and then use grossly offensive language to myself and millions of other sufferers of mental health in this country to get over your point? I'm sorry. And then you say somehow excuse it because of your background and accuse it that somehow other people had posh educations, which I did not, I can remind you. That doesn't excuse what you've done. You were forced to apologise. You were not going to apologise until Jeremy told you to.
No.
And you said it was because you grew up in South London, that if someone's rude to you, you're rude back to them.
That's the world I grew up in. And the reality is, Jeremy, you provoked this row by questioning my ability to do this job. Why didn't you pick up the phone and talk to me about my background and my understanding of these issues?
So that excuses your grossly offensive language.
War back in and I thought your attack on me was grossly offensive. Why did you question my ability to do this when for 5 years, as leader of the GLC, I was responsible for civil defence in this city?
So that's an excuse for then actually using offensive language, which not only I found offensive, but actually undermines the fantastic work both the Labour Party, charity sector and others have been doing in trying to address stigma around mental health. And I'm sorry, that's unexcusable.
I mean,
language
just listening to you trading blows across the studio here, how on earth can you work with each other and come up with a coherent defence policy, Mr Livingstone?
Well, the simple reality is we've all got our preconceived views about whether Trident's good, whether we should have more, or whether we should put that money instead into rebuilding our Army and our Navy and our Air Force. Well, we've got to come to this committee with an open mind and look at the facts. And that's my background and training as a cancer research technician, was to look for the truth, and that's what we've got to do over these next few months. And whether or not Jeremiah end up going out and have a nice pint in the pub or not is irrelevant to all of that. We've got to decide, is £20 billion spent on this a good use of money? Yeah.
OK, let me look at the big picture now with Lord Richards here, who's been listening to that rather interesting spat. You accused David Cameron of, in your words, lacking the balls to take military action in Syria and to prevent the rise of ISIS. Do you think he's found the balls to do it now?
I was actually misquoted. A headline in a newspaper is not actually what I said.
Let's call it gumption.
You're better at that. You're well used to that. You know, as a journalist, I believe